Yokoso, watashi no jigyo e. I'm Madame Sensei. I am aligning the Duolingo Japanese course with my in-person Japanese class, filling in all the gaps that Duolingo is wonderful, but doesn't tell you all the little nitty-gritty details that I know you are dying to learn. So again, in this video series, I'm going to show you any particles. I'm going to explain all the particles for the skill. I'm going to show you kanji for the skill. There's none for today, but I'm going to show you kanji for skill in general. Grammar for this skill. We have to talk about any grammar points and sentences for this skill. But like I said, this one's a pretty easy one. We are now on katakana 1, katakana 1. So there's not much kanji here. There's no kanji here. There's not much grammar. But we'll talk about it all. All right, so here's the tips. They give you the list of the katakana as they introduce them. And all I really want to say about this is that they correspond exactly to hiragana. And as fast as humanly possible, I want to get you off of the romanization. Romanization is going to mess with your pronunciation. I want you to be reading hiragana, katakana, and that's how I'm going to teach you all the kanji. Now, I do have a Quizlet deck. Used to have a tiny cards deck when Duolingo had tiny cards, but unfortunately they don't have them right now. So I will link the Quizlet deck in the description for this YouTube video. Now I would just like to say that I am modeling good behavior for my students because, you know, I don't really know much about how to use YouTube, but by golly, I'm going to learn. And if I can learn how to use YouTube, you guys can learn Japanese. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that YouTube is harder than learning to speak Japanese. All right, so once you get through all the katakana, you will also notice that there's this long hyphen, okay? This hyphen is only used in katakana. And what it means is it means hold out the vowel a little bit longer. So you're doubling the vowel. So let me give you an example, okay? Here's the word amen. Written in katakana, it's a borrowed word. It's borrowed from Chinese, okay? We want to hold out that vowel, so we're going to put the hyphen in, namen, all right? Now, actually, this word amen has been around in the Japanese language a long enough time where sometimes you're going to see it written in hiragana. And when it's written in hiragana, there's no hyphen. They're just going to stick in an u as if that's going to hold out the vowel, okay? So don't get confused when you see that. It looks like naumen, but it's not really. Namen. All right, so then Duolingo gives you a list of words. I'm going to say cover them up and see if you can figure out what they are. Okay, if you're in my classroom, I'm going to be giving you menus. I'm going to be giving you Pokemon names. I'm going to be giving you everything I can in katakana, and it's going to be your job to try and figure out what it is in English, okay? So my suggestion is pronounce it aloud and listen to yourself as you're saying it. You're going to suddenly say, kamera, kamera, oh, that's camera. Okay, America, oh, that's America. And by golly, don't look at the romaji. Romaji's going to mess you up, I'm telling you this. Okay, so these are some of the words that are going to appear in the skill. And then Duolingo just says, okay, America, I know this is a big deal in some languages because I also teach French and Spanish. America in Japanese means the United States of America. Okay, sorry Canada, sorry Mexico. That's what it means in Japanese. All right, so just to remind you about the origins of hiragana and how they came about. So remember that we had the court women writing, and they were writing this beautiful, beautiful kanji, and then they'd write it in a more flowy style, and then they'd write it in a more flowy style, and eventually it would come to look like that, and they'd say, well, how about every time we see this, it just has the pronunciation of this. Okay, here's E, okay? Every time we see this, it just has the pronunciation of E, but it no longer has the meaning of this kanji, all right? Every time you see U, this means outer space, okay? And then let's write it more flowy, more flowy. Okay, every time we see this, it just has the pronunciation U, but it no longer means outer space. Okay, and I showed you all this on the previous hiragana video. So just to remind you again, hypothetically, you've got a sentence, I walk to school, and it would be written in kanji, borrowed from Chinese as I, because the brain is important, walk to school. And they were like, well, but that's not the word order in Japanese. And what happens if we want to put in a time? What happens if we want to put in a place, or, we want to make a tense to it, because in Chinese has no real tense. Okay. I walked to school yesterday. I'm walking to school tomorrow. I'm going to walk to school. Japan was like, how do we show that? So the men were also coming up with their own shortcuts, because the men were very studious, and they were studying Chinese poetry and everything, and they started writing little secret notes to themselves of, oh, this phrase goes here and this phrase goes here in the middle of the sentence, because they wanted to show the Japanese word order. So instead of what the women were doing, which was making the kanji really flowy and everything, the men just decided, oh, we're just going to take a kanji and let's just chop half of it off. Okay, every time you see this side, it is pronounced E. No meaning, it just is pronounced E. All right, so eventually, after a couple hundred years of back and forth of what are we going to use to write Japanese, it kind of fell down that we were going to save the katakana for foreign words. Okay, but I'll show you all the different things. So here's tomato, here's shatsu, shatsu with a tsu on the end. I know it's got a tsu on the end. That's because there's no there's no shirt. How do you get that t sound in Japanese? So they just decided a tsu. So when you're reading like frutsu basketto, it's fruit basket. It's not fruits basket. Okay. So foreign words written in katakana. Okay. But also animals don't speak Japanese. Here, I'll move this off the screen so you can see. Animals don't speak Japanese. They speak a different language. Okay. So they speak a foreign language. So animal sounds are all going to be in katakana. Japanese has a ton of onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is those sound effects that you make, okay? In English, we've got punch. That's an onomatopoeia. Slam. Fart is supposed to be an onomatopoeia. I don't hear it myself, but okay. But pika pika, sparkly. That's what Pikachu says. He says sparkle, sparkle, okay? So those are all onomatopoeias. Paku paku, that's what Pac-Man says. Paku paku, paku paku, paku. Okay, any sound effects that you would be saying aloud, that's going to be katakana, okay? We talked about namen, so foreign words. What else do I have here? Oh, Gojira, made up words. Made up words are going to be in katakana. So Gojira is gorilla, gorilla, plus kujira, a whale. They took a gorilla and a whale and put it together because they were like, what's the most terrifying animal name we can come up with? All right, so that's going to be in katakana. Anytime you scream. This is from Adventures in Japanese, this textbook, okay? Ah, hey! All right, that's going to be in katakana. What else do I have for you? Oh, yeah, made up words, or like you're trying to make it sound like it's another language. Like, hamburger, just dom dom. That had the best ad campaign ever. So that's when we're going to be using katakana. The lesson itself is very easy. You've got a bunch of names. There's Erika. Europa, that's Europe. Philippine, and for that fu, remember, your lips are not quite together. Fu. Okay, it's not a f sound. It's not an F sound. It's not an H sound. It's kind of halfway between. So this is Philippine. Kamera, Doma, pronounced like the Jesuits would have pronounced it, which is why it's spelled that way. Russia, Igirisu. Igirisu means England, it means the UK, it means Great Britain, all of that. Asia, because remember, the Z sound doesn't technically exist, just like arre doesn't exist in English. The Z sound doesn't exist, so they're going to use a G sound for that. Africa, Australia, talked about America. Mexico, Maria. France, we already did Asia. Italia, again, as the Jesuits would have pronounced it. Okay, so your assignment for today is I want you to start playing around with this. You now know these words. You know tori, you know inu, you know neko, you know watashi, you know sensei. We can plug them in. Sensei wa Mexico ni imasu. Tori wa Igirisu ni imasu. Okay, so just start plugging in. Subject, wa. Wa means whatever comes right before is the subject. Place, some place name. Ni. Ni is our location marker. Exists. Okay, so Maria wa Asia ni imasu. Speaking of Maria, exists in Asia. And that gets us Maria is in Asia. Okay, remember, imas is only going to be used with living things. Arimas is for any non-living things and plants as well, because plants don't move around. We'll talk about that in a coming up lesson. All right, have fun with this.